Good morning. This is the Elder Prophet West. And this morning, this Monday morning, I would like to encourage you, but I'd like to talk today about church hurt. Many years ago, you had a personal condition and you got to a point where you said enough is enough. You knew God was calling you to change and you got tired of doing the things that you were doing. So you decided to go to church. And in your experience in church, you come to discover and you come to realize that the pastor was gay. That rocked your world, that discouraged you so bad, and it caused you to turn away from church and God. Let me talk to someone else. You went to church, you had a personal condition or situation with your with sexual problems with so many women or so many men, and you decided to go to church and you discovered that the preacher and many members were doing the same thing you were doing before you got into the church. So you left the church. You walked away from God. Let me talk to someone else. You decided to go to church and you wanted to receive God and all the things of God that God had for you. You wanted to embrace those things. But then you found and you discovered that church leaders and officials were bickering and fighting amongst themselves, just like kids and just like adolescents. It put a distaste in your mouth and you walked away from God. Let me tell you something, my friend. What you must realize and understand is that the preacher isn't God. Church folk isn't God. The Bible says that you must work out your own soul salvation with fear and trembling. That means it's a personal thing. You cannot use that as an excuse not to worship God, because when you quit the walks of this life, you're gonna have to answer to God for yourself, not the preacher, not no one else. So I know you're on the outside, you at in church, and you say everybody's wrong and everybody is not living right. Let me tell you something. Even your perception of a woman, you might say that all women are wrong. But what about your mother? You young lady, you might say all men are dogs. So what are you saying about your dad? So not everyone is wrong. Not everyone is not right. Not everyone is doing wrong. There are people who are doing what's right. There are people who are trying to make things right and live right. But what you must realize is that what is your motive? Because if your motive is pure, your action is going to be pure. You know, it comes a time where you can't blame anybody else. You can't blame the preacher. You can't blame your wife. You can't blame your husband. You can't blame your kids. You can't blame conditions. You must come for yourself and say, God, it's me. It's not my mother. It's not my father. I need you. I need you in my life. I need help. I need you to help me. So be aware of this. Be aware of what it is that you're looking for, what it is that you're existing for. All of us have purpose in life, and it's your job and it's your duty to find out your purpose, what God has for you. And the only way you can find out your purpose is to seek God, is to read your word, is to open up and be honest with God about what is it that you're feeling, what is it that you're going through, what is it that you're dealing with, and not blame your brother and your sister. It's an Adamic nature to blame others. It's an Adamic nature. It's an Adamic nature is to point the finger. If you must realize and understand, in the beginning, when God had created Eve and Adam, and when sin had came, when Adam and Eve had deceived God and broke the covenant, when God had came through the cool of the evening, and to find out what was going on, and why was Adam hiding, Adam blamed Eve. And then when God looked at Eve, Eve blamed the serpent. So it's in our nature to blame someone else. It's in our nature to shift the blame to someone else instead of taking ownership of our own self, ownership of our own condition, ownership of our own mistakes. And what you must realize and understand, that deliverance and healing comes from self-admittance, realizing it's me, realizing I'm wrong. And once you do that, God will accept you. God will receive you to himself. He will receive you into his choicest blessings in this world, in this life concerning you, the promises that he has for you. You must realize and understand that even during the time of Joshua, during the time of Israel, when it was the time to go into the promised land, and then Joshua got into the promised land, he first met an angel. And the angel told him he must take off his shoes because he's on holy ground. And the thing that you must realize is that why Joshua had to take off his shoes, because his shoes had became old. He had to get rid of that old thing in order to go into a new place. So I say to you that in order to receive the promises that God has for you, you must get rid of your old bickering. You must get rid of your past thinking, the way you think, what someone done to you 30 years ago. You have to let that go and embrace the newness of what God is calling you to. In order to be free, you must loose yourself. You must loose yourself. You must loose your mind, the way you think, your mindset. And in doing those things, and in doing what God requires for you to do, is to come to him, to ask him to forgive you, to ask him to help you. You will find what you're looking for. God bless you.